Hey everyone, it's Emmanuel. I just finished my college class for today, and today I will be sharing with you guys this presentation that I did, the artist statement or the artist presentation that I did for my class. Essentially, I had to pretty much talk about who I am as an artist, explain how my visual language translates to a lot of work that I did. Even in the presentation, I shared a little bit of previous works that I had done in middle school and high school and college, talking about my trajectory from that point up to where I am today. And it's a little bit long. There's some things that I wish I could have explained a little bit more on the presentation, but I really just want to share it because I want you guys to start reading. I want you guys to start understanding the language that I'm going to be using, that I have been using, and I will continue to use for future projects. So for example, the personal design language section is 7 pointers that are very specific, and I just kind of skimmed over them in the video, but I'm gonna dive deeper into them in future videos. So check it out, watch the whole thing. Trust me, it's gonna be worth it. And like, share, comment, and do all those things. And I'll see you guys in the next one. All right, so my name is Emmanuel Cabrera, and today I'm gonna be, doing my artist presentation. So the top part is my artist statement, and the bottom is my bio. I'm not gonna read my bio. I'm gonna stick more to the artist statement, but I'm gonna read it and then we'll explain some parts of it. Emmanuel Cabrera is a multidisciplinary artist and creative director based in Miami, Florida. His visual language is at the intersection of spirit and culture, crafting dynamic yet poetic visual narratives rooted in observation, contemplation, and presence. So you guys are probably gonna see, like in some of like my further works, that I do sometimes involve like religious sort of symbolisms and things like that. I am Christian, but it's not necessarily just religious art. I like always involving it when it comes to like cultural things that are outside just religion. So I sometimes work with that duality a little bit. And I put rooted in observation, contemplation, or presence is because I like when I do an artwork, I want somebody to stay in it as much as possible, whether it be on the artwork itself or them thinking about something outside of the artwork itself. So I like those layers of my work. His subject is his own life experiences, suspended between peace and chaos, clarity and fragmentation. A lot of my work stems from like things that I experience just in life, and I like talking about the duality of, the two sides of every experience. Emmanuel's work often involves collaboration across industries where he is able to find links between fine art, graphic design, literature, and fashion. So you're gonna see my works, but like over the years I've worked and put my hand into a lot of different things. He creates immersive systems of meaning that elevate everyday life into the language of design, revealing the subtle architecture of the human experience with the goal of helping others navigate through this world. So at the end of the day, when I create something like for myself, like personal artworks, I always wanted to have an end goal, like a solution to somebody's life, or even to just get them to reflect on their everyday life. You're gonna see like I also like doing still lives and things like that. So that's where that comes in. My bio just kind of talks about that, I went to arts conservatory, middle school and high school. That's kind of where I learned a lot of like fine art and things like that. And then as I went towards college, that's when I really started getting into graphic design and like things that are digital. And I kind of started thinking about how to merge both together. So before I move on, this is kind of like a rule book that I use for a lot of my personal works. Just gonna read them quickly and then we'll move on from there. Proverbs as cultural statements, how we navigate the current world. I really like quotes. That's why I put poetry, because I like involving sometimes quotes in my art. I don't know, I just like the nature of them. Visual, chiaroscuro, cultural duality. So that's again with the light and dark, whether it be on the actual way that I do the artwork or on the themes that I kind of involve in it. Everything is copyright. That's something that I use a lot, like in my work, it's the copyright symbol. It kind of represents my last name because my last name starts with a C, but I feel like when I put it on somewhere, it makes it feel either official or stamped or something like that. Simplicity is purity, intentional minimalism. So I like using minimalism a lot. Sometimes I like stripping away a certain artwork from certain elements that might make it seem a little bit too loud, and that's intentional. Recontextualize to reveal. I like taking, cultural references and putting them into a new context to be able to speak about different themes. Work across mediums and industries. I said that. A continuous oscillation between what has been and what is to come. This has to do with the references. I always take references from the past, but it's always thinking, forward thinking, not necessarily just taking inspiration just for the sake of it. So these are all the works that I did in middle school and high school. You guys can see it's mostly just like realisms and things like that, and painting, charcoal, watercolor, all those little things. So I kind of, was just in the traditional like that. And yeah, there's not really much to these, to be honest. When it comes to like the meaning and definition of it, it was just like school assignments. But after that, it's kind of when I started expanding a little bit more into like crossing through mediums. So these two were for a beginning drawing class here at FIU. I still kept them developing a little bit more when it comes to the realism that I use, and I really started liking charcoal. So you can see that in some works I use that more. That one all the way to the right, I think we had to do like a symbol that represents us or something. So I don't know, I just use like a eagle wings or something. And then here in the bottom are commissions that I've done recently. So some of them are like these like cartoon digital drawings. The one in the middle was a merch line for a conference here in Miami. And so that's kind of where I started involving myself in client work and things like that outside of just art. And that's when I really started getting into graphic design also. And then the one all the way to the right is an album cover for a friend that I did. And I've done a lot of album covers too. So that's where it's all starting to come together when it comes to the things that I do. Here just a little bit more. This was also for the same conference event. I had to do like the flyers and graphics and all that good stuff. Another album cover, and then these were like cartoon art that I got commissioned by certain local artists to do for that. This is kind of like when I start. I'm gonna start explaining how to like this relates to my personal design language, because this is more like personal work. All the other ones are kind of like doing things for other people, which you have to mold yourself to according to what they ask you to do. But so the one on the left is reference from a painting that Gustave Doré did, The Crucifixion, and I kind of blended it with a cartoon style. Used charcoal also to be able to really make it feel very, very moody. This is the artwork I'm using for like the artist analysis we have to do for like the entire semester. So it's gonna be cool to see what I did, honestly, because like sometimes I just do stuff and it comes out with deeper things. Then the one to the right is one that I actually did last semester. Again, I used charcoal for this one. I honestly got inspired from this one from the movie The Truman Show, where he goes to like the elevator, if you've seen the movie, and then like there's like a whole crew behind. So I kind of want to do that, but like in person with the drawing, and I kind of cut the paper here to make it seem as if they're trying to pull the wall to so you don't see them. And right here is really where I use a little bit of like the chiaroscuro technique, where they're kind of fading into the black background. And then these three artworks, I would say, is where I kind of start using other references, kind of like what I was saying, to be able to recontextualize it. So again, this one is, Snoopy and the bird, I don't know the name. And what? Oh, Woodstock, yeah, that. And I put it into a different context, which is a landscape of, like these crashing waves, but then also a sunset. So it kind of deals with taking Snoopy that, he's like resting, but putting it into a context of, these crashing waves and and it can speak on, peace in the midst of chaos and etc. The one in the middle, I got the scene from Indiana Jones from the first movie when he's gonna go steal the statue. And I made him say steal, and then the statue says no. So it's kind of like a different dialogue, taking inspiration from, the movie. And then the one all the way to the right is a drawing I did of my window, of the window of my house. But then I added text to it where it says, "No place will ever feel like home except home." So it kind of starts talking about what exactly is home for my audience. And for me, this image like is really reminiscent of a place that I feel at home. And it's kind of like combining my audience to be able to think for themselves, what they would consider their home to be, So this slide specifically, I actually didn't share it in the presentation that I did, but essentially, it's very, very important to me. And it's honestly one of my favorite projects that I've done up to now, just because of how successful it was, how fully fleshed out the entire vision and aesthetic was, and everything. So essentially, the first thing that came was the animation that I did for a FAU class, where it was Jesus riding on the horse, looped animation. It was great. I did it. People liked it. People even wanted it as a product or something. So I took the original sketch that I did for the animation. I fleshed it out into a shirt design. The front, I put Jesus is coming. Are you ready? I used the copyright symbol again, symbolizing my design language. And I went to art studio at FIU. I did a photo shoot there. I included some of my previous paintings too, because the overall message of that was, listen, I did a painting and this is the product version of it. It's not just like merch because, So essentially, that's something that really stuck with a lot of people, and something that I'm going to be using in the future. That everything is not, just artwork, or that's it, or it's not isolated. Everything comes together: the product, the painting, the presentation, the animation, etc. And I think that it was just such a great and successful project that I did. Right here, I kind of show how sometimes I do something on one medium and then I take it to another medium. So for example, right here, again, I took a painting from Gustave Doré and I made it in this like cartoon style with like this gradient background. And a lot of people really liked it and they wanted it like on merch. So what I did is I just took the characters and I put them on a hoodie that I garment dyed at home, which was kind of crazy. And then this was also a painting by Leonardo da Vinci that I got and I put it on a tote bag. And then the video was an animation that I did based on this. So it's kind of like that interdisciplinary work that I really like doing. And I'm also really into like fashion and stuff like that. So that's my way of like being able to involve my work in clothing, And then this one was one that I did in my first semester at FIU. It's called The Sign You've Been Waiting For. And it's again with like this like little cartoon style that I have. And it was a character holding like different signs, and pretty much I did it with a group, but pretty much our vision was to be able to create a little figure that would give quotes and signs to struggling artists, essentially people that might feel overwhelmed, people that might feel kind of crazy and not understanding of what to do with their art. So for example, this one says, don't rush your masterpiece. The other one says, you don't need to create every day, breathe. And we had to take it somewhere. So I took it to like a Walmart, and it was actually really cool to see what people's opinions were with the artwork, but also how they would interact with it. For example, this kid, he was kind of like just riding his bike and he like stopped to look at it and he asked me questions about the artwork and things like that. So I think that artwork was able to kind of show me how my art and the message that it gives can practically help people, And that's kind of one of the core things that I now like to do with my work is, making it useful and helpful to people in the real world. And yeah, that's website, Instagram, TikTok, in case y'all want to check out the rest of my work. And
with great sense of like what you're trying to do. Fantastic. He express it really well. And I'm excited to see what you do in class, because I think first part you show a huge range and you're very like unafraid to like try different things, and there's a curiosity that's really important to this like level, so yeah, I'm excited. Thank you.